Hi everyone, in this video I will show you how to make this flame body effect. So here you can see there is fire on this character and you can also see some orb flying around the character. And now here if I press the E key, you can see that you can activate the flame body. And if I press the E key again, I can deactivate it. And if I press E and if I move around, you can see that when I rotate, the orbs aren't really rotating like it is stuck on the character, but it is kind of moving naturally, so that it will come to orbit the character again when I stop. But when I turn like this, it doesn't feel like it is stuck on the character. So this is what we are going to be creating today. After you create this, you can create a lot of variation by changing the color and also changing some parameters. You can also change the sprite material, so you can get these two different effects. These two effects are bonus effects that I will share with my patrons. So if you want to download the entire project file, you can support me on my Patreon. And for $5, you can get all of these project files. And also you can get almost all the project files from my previous tutorials going back like 4 years. And if you are already my patron, thank you very much for supporting me there. So first we are going to create the flames surrounding the player character. So for that we can right click and get a Niagara system and click next, then click on fountain and click add and finish. We can call this NS flame body, then open it up. So here you can see a lot of particles going up and down like this. So here we don't really need the drag, the gravity force, the add velocity and the shape location. Now we can go to the particle spawn and here we can type in mesh reproduction. So initialize mesh reproduction and here we can change the preview mesh to many. And here if you get a CPU access error, you have to click fix, otherwise it won't cling to your character like this. Basically you have to allow CPU access on the character mesh, like here CPU access. This should be ticked so that you can get the particle around the player. Now here we also need to update mesh reproduction sprite, and here we will also use the mani, so it looks like this. Now we can just change the colors to like a red color, make it a bit bright like this. We can also increase the size of the particle, but if you go here and try to increase it, it doesn't really increase the size because this is being overwritten by the update mesh reproduction sprite. So here you can see sprite size X and Y. This is a 2 axis in which we can scale the sprite, but we only need a uniform scale. So for that we can change this to a float. So click here and type in float, and here you can get vector 2D from float. So we get a float. Now if I change the size, you can see we can change the size like this. So I will set this to like 20 or something like that. And now I will click here again and type in curve. So we get float from curve. So we can control the size using this curve. So here I will add a midpoint and add a key, and I will set this value to 0, and this value I will set this to 1. And now here for the scale curve, we can set that to like 60. So it's really huge. Now it is growing and shrinking like that. So this is kind of what we want. Now we can also select all of these points and right click and auto curve it, so it is a bit more smoother. Now we need to create our material for this flames. So for that we can right click, then go to material and M underscore flame, then open it up. Here we can set this to unlit, and we can set the blending mode to additive because we only need like a bright color. If you also want a darker color around the end of the flames, you need translucent, but additive is a bit more cheaper than translucent. If you don't really need the darkening of the particles, additive will work. But if you want both, you can use like translucent, and if you only want the darkening, you can use modulative. So here we only need the additive. Later I will show you another blend mode that is a lot more cheaper than additive. Right now we can use additive. Now get a particle color node, and now we need a flame like this. Luckily there is a flame texture in the starter content. So now we can go to the starter content and now go to textures, and if I search here fire, you can see this fire sub UV. This is what we want. We can just bring that into our material. Now here press and hold M and click, so we get this multiply. Now connect this to the A and connect this RGB to B. So with this particle color node, we can bring in the color from the Niagara emitter into our material. And here if I just connect this to the emission color, so here you can see that it is already transparent. That's because the other color is black, and black isn't really visible with additive. If I set this to translucent, it will be visible. So now if I just get another multiply and connect this red again to multiply here, because this texture doesn't really have an alpha channel, but this black color will act as an alpha channel because it is a grayscale image, and the white will be visible and the black will be invisible. Now if I just connect this to the opacity, now you can see that black is again invisible. Now we can connect the alpha to the multiply. Now we can also set this back to additive because that's what we want, and we need to fade out the colors over time. So that's what this is doing. Now click apply. Now go to the flame body, and here in the sprite render we can just use the one we created like this. So here this is a mess. If you look at this, you can see that there is 6 rows and 6 columns. So here we can go to the sub UV image size in the sprite renderer and now set this to 6 by 6, and you can also enable sub UV blending enabled. And now still it isn't really doing anything. So now we can go to the particle update. Here we need to play this sub UV like a flip book. For that we can go to the particle update and click add and type in sub UV animation, and here you can see some warning, and here you can see sprite renderer. This one you can select sprite renderer. So this will automatically set this 6 by 6 into your UV animation, and everything will work fine. So now if I just go to this mannequin, you can get this from the third person template. And now if I just drag and drop this into the skeletal mesh component, you can see there is fire like this, but it's a bit too big. So we can go back and we can go to the update mesh reproduction and change this to like 50. One more thing we can do is that we can go here and type in random and random ranged float. So we get 2 values. We can set one to 25 and the other to 60. So we have some random scales. Maybe that's a bit too extreme. Maybe 25 and 40. And now you can see that it kind of looks like this. Now if you look closely, you can see that there's some harsh like overlap between the particles and the mesh. So in order to fix that, we can use a depth fade node. So what this depth fade node does is that it will just fade out portion of the material or the mesh that is in contact with another mesh which isn't carrying any translucent material. So it will fade out any particle but won't fade for another translucent material. So here you can also change the fade distance, but we don't really need that. We can connect this to the opacity and connect this directly to the opacity here. And now if I click apply, you can see that it is fading out a lot. Now one more thing we can do is that we can go to the particle spawn and type in camera offset and add like a 10 offset. So things are kind of in front of the camera like this. And now if you want to make it cover the entire mesh, we can spawn a lot more particles, but keep in mind that this will cause a lot of overdraw. So whichever value works for you, we can work with that. So here the spawn rate is like 90. We can go to the properties and in the sim target, we can change this to GPU compute and we can change the calculate bounce mode to fixed, and this 100 by 100 will be enough. If your particles kind of disappear when you move the camera, you can increase the fixed bounce. Now if I click compile and save, it will look the same. Now we can also spawn a lot more particles. I will spawn like 300. Now we need to make an overlay material so it looks like it is flaming. So for that, right click, then click on material and I will call this M underscore overlay flames and open it up. So here we can change the blend mode to translucent and the shading model to unlit. This is similar to the material we created for our overlay tutorial, but I decided not to include any Niagara system for that because it was already a big tutorial. So I saved the Niagara system for this tutorial. So for this material, it's really simple. We just need to get a fire texture from the starter content and bring that into the world and get a multiply and connect this here. Now we can press and hold V and click. So we get this vector parameter and we can call this color, and I will make it like an orange color like this. That's yellow, so I will just move it here. Now I will get a Fresnel and connect this to the opacity. This will give like a rim light effect, but when we connect the rim light to an opacity, these areas that are kind of at 90 degrees from the camera will have a value of 1, and the portions we look directly will have a value of 0. So it will be more faded out and the edges will be more visible. We can change the exponent to like 6 or maybe like 2. So we get something like this. Now click apply, and now we can select the mesh, and here we can search overlay and create an instance and add this to the overlay. So here we have our material. We can also add a panner to it and make it pan upwards by giving 0.4 in the Y. Click apply. Maybe that's too fast, maybe like 0.1. We can also copy this and paste it and get a UV coordinate and connect this here and set this to like 2 and change this to like 0.4, and we can add both of these together and now multiply it by 0.5. So we are kind of dividing it by 2. So when we add both of them together, the value kind of becomes too big. By multiplying this by 0.5, we are kind of bringing it back down again. Now connect this here. We can also change the base reflect to like 0.1 and now click apply. So now we get an effect like this. So this is what we want with our flame material. Now we can create the orbs that are rotating around the character. So for that we can go to the Niagara system and here click add emitter. Then add a single looping particle. So here you can see the looping particle. So I will just make it bigger so you can see it. So this is our particle, and here we can go to the update and change the life cycle mode to self, and here for the inactive response we can change this to continue. So when we deactivate the system in the blueprint, this will also die because we are going to make it live forever if we don't deactivate it. So for that we can go to the particle update, and here in the kill particle we can untick that. So the particle will always be there. Now we can make it move up a bit. So here we can offset the position of the particle a bit by going to the initialize particle and click position offset and change the C value to like 100. So it is at the center of the character. Now we need to make this thing rotate. Now we can go to the particle update, and here we can add rotate around a point, and here we can set the radius to like 200. Maybe that's a bit too much. Maybe set that to like 100. Now change the rotation rate to like 1 or 0.5. So here you can see that it is rotating on the floor, but this is not what we want. So in order to make it at the center, here you can see rotation center. We can get a float plus float by typing plus sign and add vector to position. And here for the position, we can type in simulation position, and if we add a value 100 to the C, it will be in the middle. Now we can duplicate this and paste it here, and here we can change the rotation rate to like negative 0.5, so it will rotate like this. Now here we can set the C value to like 0.5. Now here we can set the C value to like negative 0.5, and here 0.5. We can go here and we can set this to like 0.5, and we can go to the other one and we can set this to like negative 0.5 and 0.5. So we get a rotation like this. So I will call this one right orbit and the other one left orbit. Now we can go to the initialize particle, and here we can change the size to like 10, and also I can change this here. And now for the color we can change this to direct set, and here also we can change this to direct set. And now we can go here to user parameter and we can type in color and linear color. and we can call this orbit color, and we can have a very large orange value like this here. And now we can just drag this into the color here and also drag it into the color here. Maybe we can increase the color value to like 100. So now you can see that it is orbiting like this. Now we can add the ribbon to the orbits. So add emitter, fountain, then we can delete the drag gravitational force, add velocity, and shape location. And now we can also delete the spawn rate. Now go to the emitter update and type in spawn particle from other emitter, and now click fix. So we will also get this sample particle from other emitter. Now here for the emitter name, we will give right orbit. So you can see that there is particle spawning like this, but this is not what we want for this one. We will just duplicate this and paste it here. So we have a backup, but we are not going to use this right now. So just untick that. And now here we will create a ribbon. So for that, go to sprite render and untick this and click add and ribbon render. And you can see that we already have a ribbon, but here you can see that it is acting a little bit weird. And now go to the emitter stage and change this to like 1 for the loop duration. And now go to the initialize particle, change this to direct set and set this to 1. So we get something like this. So here you can see that the ribbon is kind of lagging from the orbit. So one thing we can do to fix is that we can change the size to like 15 and 15, and then we can go to the spawn particle from other emitter and change the spawn rate to like 20. So now it is much smoother. So we get this nice trail like this. Now we will set the color for the trail, and also we can set the width. So now we can go to the initialize particle and we can go to ribbon width and change this to direct set and set the value to like 3 or 2 or something like that. Now go to the particle update, and here we can type in scale ribbon width, and here click this and type in curve, float from curve. So the value kind of naturally goes from 1 to 0 with the age of the particle. So we get this nice tapering ribbon like this. Now I will just rename this to right ribbon. And now for the scene color, we also need to set the scene color for the flame effect on the character. So now to scale the color of the ribbon, we also need to do that for the character. So for that, we can go to the scale color here, and we need to right click and type in linear color and click make vector from linear color. And here we can again click this and type in curve and color from curve. So we get this. Now we can go here and type in color, and here select curve for colors, and we will name this main scale color. And if I click this, I can open this up and I can click here and click at the end. And for this, I will just bookmark this color, and I will go here and select that, and I will go here and change this to black. Now click compile, and I will save this because sometimes it crashes when I work with this. And now we can just drag this into our curves. So I think that's a bit too much. So we can go back and change this value to like 5. And we can also bring the black like this. So we get something like this. Maybe that's a bit too much. I will just bring it back. Now we can just select the scale color, and we can just delete this here and paste it here. We can also paste it here after deleting this. Just enable this, delete this and paste it. So now we can just change this color and everything kind of update. Here I don't know why it isn't updating, so I will just, okay, so go into the initialize particle and just untick that. So we get this effect. We can also change this color to the green. So we can easily control the colors of our system. So I will just set this back to our original colors. And here I can just disable this, and I will just duplicate this, and I will call this left ribbon. And for this, we can go to the spawn particle from other emitter, and here I can type in left orbit. So we get a similar effect from the other side also. So this is what we want with the ribbon. Now we can add the flames at the edge of the ribbon. So to do that, we can go into the Niagara system again. And now we can tick the fountain and we will call this fire trail left. So make sure this is left also. So change this to left. So you can already see a trail like this. So now here go to the sprite renderer and go to the material. And for this material, we can get the one we created for the body. So get that and add that here. So here you can see it isn't really working. We can set this to like 6 by 6 and we can add a sub UV here like this, sub UV animation, and change this to sprite render. And here we can go to the initialize particle and change the size to like 20 and 50. So you can see that it's kind of bigger now. Maybe we will spawn more particles. So we can go to the spawn rate and change this to like 50. So we spawn a lot of particles. And now we can go to the particle update and click add and type in scale sprite size. So now you can see that it is getting bigger with time. So I think we need to change the color a little bit. I will make it more redder like this. And I will also increase the value to like 20 or something like that. So it's a bit more brighter. We can also add a smooth curve here. So now we get something like this. We can reduce this by changing the size to direct set. And also we can go here and change the loop duration to 1. So now we get this really nice tail like this. We can get another tail by copy pasting this one and changing the emitter name in the spawn particle from other emitter to right orbit. So if I save this, I get another tail like this. I think I need to change the size to like something bigger, like 40 and 60, and here also 40 and 60. So now it looks much bigger. So this is what we want. Now we will add some random particle to our orbits. So go to the system again, then right click, then add emitter, then add this blowing particles. Now go to the emitter update and type in spawn particle from other emitter and click fix. And now change the emitter name to like right orbit. And here it is in spawning. That is because this is a GPU particle. So we can change this to like CPU simulation and it will spawn. But here we don't really need the collision or the align particle with collision plane. And here we can copy our scale color and paste it, and we can go to the wind force and change the wind speed to like 150 for C, so it goes up. And we can go to the initialize particle and change the lifetime min to like 4 and the lifetime max to like 6. And here for the particle size we can change this to 1 and 5, so it's smaller. So now we get particles like this. Now we can press F2, we can rename this to wind right, and now we can copy this and paste it, and we can rename this to wind left, and we can go to the spawn particle from other emitter and change this to left orbit. So now it is spawning from both the orbits like this. Now we need to add some more random particles. So for that, add a new emitter and a fountain, and now we can just copy the scene color, and here we can just delete the scene color and paste it, and here we can just delete the shape location or untick that, and here for the spawn just click this and type in skeletal mesh location, and we can add our mannequin location, and we can set the spawn rate to like 20 or something like that. And we don't really need the gravity force, so it will fly away, but now we can change the drag to 5, so it kind of goes up fast and just stops. So this is what we want. We can also reduce the size to like 2 and 6, so it's smaller. Now we can stretch it. Before that we can also pick local space, so it will stick to the character when we move. Now go to the sprite renderer and change this to velocity aligned. So now the particle will face the way it is moving, and because of that we can spread this in the y axis and we can get a thin straight line going upwards. So if you go to the particle update and type in scale by speed, scale sprite size by speed, and change the min scale factor to 0.1 and the max to like 0.2, and change the y to 5 and 8, you can see that we get this effect. Maybe the drag is a bit too much, so we can change this to like 2 or 3, and we can also reduce the lifetime to like 0.5 and 1. So now we have our system. So here if I press play and look at this, and if I just hit F5, you can see that there's a lot of overlay because we are using a lot of translucent and additive material mainly for the flames. So if you want to improve that, there are a lot of ways to do that. The easiest solution will be just to reduce the number of spawns like here, and also reducing the size if you can, so that will also decrease overlay. So here you can see that there is a lot of particles spawning in the hand because there are a lot of vertexes and bones in the hand. So things like that you can fix that by using the filtered bones and sockets, etc. And one more easy fix is that we can go to the material, and here instead of additive we can set this to like mask. And now if we just connect this to the opacity mask and click apply, now you can see that it kind of looks weird. But if I press F5, there isn't that much overdraw, but it kind of looks weird. So in order to make this less weird, we can just type in dither temporal AA, and we can connect this to the alpha threshold and connect this to the opacity mask and click apply. Now this looks a bit similar to what we had before, and if I press F5 again, you can see that there isn't really that much overdraw. It almost looks the same. So that is one way. I will just change this back to additive. Also remember that the scale of the particle and also the number of particles that are overlapping each other affect the overdraw. So if you can find ways to fix that, it will help it. You probably won't need this many particles on the hand, etc. And now to add this for the blueprint, we can go to the third person character, and here I will type in R keyboard event, and now I will just get a flip-flop. So when I first press R, A will fire, and when I press R again, B will fire, and again like that. And here I will just drag in the mesh and type in set overlay and connect this here. And this material is the one we created, so it is a flame overlay, this one. So I will add that. I will just drag here and type in spawn system attach, and here for the system, this is the one we created, so this one. And attach to component, we can attach this to the mesh, and here we can change the lock. We can set to snap to target, keep world scale, and we can also create a reference to it, so we can delete this later. So flame body, so I will call this flame body reference. Now when I press R again, I will just duplicate this and connect this here, and I will just remove this. So set that to none, so it will get deleted, and we can drag the flame body reference, and here we can type in deactivate, so it will deactivate that. So here the target, we need to connect this to the mesh and click compile. Now press play. Now if I press R, you can see the effect like this, and I can move. And if I press R again, it will go. Press R again, it will come back. So that's it for the tutorial, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to download the project file, you can support me on my Patreon.